Yeah. Let's go. I'm switching stuff up right now. I wanted to switch the whole format up. The whole format up, man. I'm gonna try to, what they say, find my niche. I'm gonna try to find my niche. Well, I found my niche. And as you know, I wanna incorporate what I do with something I'm passionate about. So I'm gonna come again. You know how MSNBC done switched it up to MS Now? Something like that? Yeah. I'm switching this up from just let's get to it to let's get to it, the blue collar advocate. And what that's gonna be dealing with is some of the things I face or have faced in the blue collar workforce. You know, I've had a lot of jobs. I used to be in construction. I used to be a bricklayer, or let me bring that back. I was a labor, went through the apprenticeship, and you know, got out of the apprenticeship not due to my own doing, and I want to get into that because what I want to cover with this new format is a lot of times, people that I see online, they talk about corporate jobs, and I don't really see people addressing just your average service driver, blue collar, convenience store worker, and that's what I deal with a lot. Right now, I'm in the service field. I'm a delivery driver. And, I come in contact with all the convenience stores and all the chain stores, and I see people struggling. And the reason I bring this up is, you know, it's something going on right now talking about the affordability is a hoax. And like I said, when you blue collar, you ain't making six figures really. If you making six figures at blue collar, you done pulled off a magic feat. I ain't never see six figures at no job. Ever. I had my own business and I had like a half a year running. It was looking like it was gonna get to six figures, and it didn't. It didn't. And what I wanted to talk about today is just I wanted to address some of the issues that I think a lot of us may have. Sometimes, you know, we deal with being treated wrongly, being underpaid, overworked, blamed for things, used as scapegoats, and a lot of times as a lower level worker or as a service worker or a blue collar worker, you don't even have any recourse. Some of these unions, they don't really serve you. So it's like, what do you do in some of these situations? So what I wanted this my new format to be about, people kind of coming together and having some sort of call and response, some sort of, help each other out. That's what I want to do. I'm tired. I'm tired of bumping my head against a wall and feeling like I'm the lowest of the low. Any conversation being had, it seemed like it don't even include me. So, I wanted to get into that. I wanted to get into it. And I wanted to start off with this situation where, hold on, let me see something. Let me see something. I can't do nothing with it right now. I was trying to set up so I could see a comment if it came in on the chat, but it's not letting me function. Hold on. Let me take that off. Nah, it didn't let me do my thing. Hold on. Let me see some. Nah, I can't even get up in there. Let me go right back to it. Nah, it ain't let me do my thing. But I wanted to get into a situation where, you know, I was done wrong. I was done wrong. I ain't really, when I was a kid growing up, I could say I didn't have a direction. I was kind of on autopilot. So, I wasn't prepared for life and mess around and got myself in some trouble. And when I came home, I had to figure things out. My peoples ain't had no money. I ain't had no money. I ain't had nothing saved up. And I ain't had nobody to lean on. So I had to get out here and kind of figure it out. And I wind up getting into construction. You know, a guy, older guy, he was saying, man, you can't be sitting around. You got to get out. You do. I said, well, you know a job. Yeah, you be a labor. You do this, do that. And I ain't know what I was getting into. Come to find out, he was a bricklayer. The company was Straight Line Masonry. You know, uh, I want to start this off with the pretext of who I am, my work ethic. I've never been lazy. When I get when I get rolling, I only got one speed, and that's full speed. So it's like I got that from my father, just how he used to be on me playing sports when I was younger. My uncle, they ain't teach me to go half. When I played any sort of sports or anything, I try to work myself to exhaustion because I was trying to, be successful at it. And I think I carried that same behavior over into the workforce. Like when it's something that need to be done, you almost got to stop me from hurting myself because I'm doing the most. And when I did get the job, it wasn't long before I started to excel and be recognized, get raises and stuff like that. And it was hard work. It was hard work. It was super hard work. But I was on the grind because I was like, man, they paying me. Before that, I had minor jobs here and there, but I didn't really have a consistent job. And this one seemed to be consistent. So I used to go ham. I used to work hard. I ain't even care about the amount of work or what they was paying me at the time because, the guys, they had took a liking to me. A lot of the bricklayers took a liking to me because when you laying brick, the bricklayers, they focus on laying brick and they rely on the labor to, so to speak, get them right. Shake their mud up, make sure they brick there. If they tools a little bit too far to arm reach, I grab their tools and, you know, I when you had me on the job, you really ain't need nobody else. Yeah, I could do a self serve by myself, and a lot of guys they appreciated the hard work I put out, and they kind of spoke up for me, got me raises, it got me into the apprenticeship program, and I was thirsty, I was hungry, I wanted to learn. I used to ask so many questions. People got tired of me asking questions. I asked this, I asked that, I try to work and do my stuff so fast and finish up what I gotta do so I could get a chance to experiment and get on the wall, try to lay a couple here, spread some, some mortar out. I was doing everything I could. And it was noticed. So I wound up getting an apprenticeship program, which was, they teach you how to read blueprints. They teach you the basics of how to lay brick. You get to go in there and practice on like some sort of lie type brick where it don't really set, which was the hardest. And it was over there in Norfolk, I think off of Military Highway, some sort of tech center. And that was the, I want to say, blueprint or theory of it. And then in Virginia Beach, they had a class that we used to go to where we actually physically practice laying brick. Then when you go to the job site, you still doing your labor thing, but you recognize as an apprentice, and you kind of, you doing more. And every time is a spot for you, you get on the wall and try to learn that way. Implement some of the stuff you've been learning in class when You asked to do certain things, you giving different responsibilities. And I took it seriously. I took it seriously. I was an overachiever. You know, I advocated for myself because I didn't have, you know, I felt like it was me that it rested on. So, I took the class super serious. I probably was a little bit extra in there because I'd be like, nah, man, I did explain to me or, it mark something wrong. And I'd be like, this is ain't wrong, man. That's right. And he's like, oh, I made a mistake. That'll lift the C up to a B. And dudes was thinking I'm doing too much, like, relax. But I couldn't because, I wanted to be a bricklayer. And the reason I bring this story up because like I said, this is about advocacy for that blue collars. Um, I'm in my second year, no, third year. I passed the classes like a 2 year in class and training experience, and then you get 1 year in the field, and then they turn you to a journeyman. So, I finished the school. I think I passed with a B average. I passed with a B inside the actual school where you lay the brick in the theory. I think I had a B. I was trying to get an A, but and it was one, two was me, Justin, another guy named Justin and Philip. Me and Justin was in the field. Philip and the other guy, Justin, I think they was trying to train him to be foreman or something like that, or they was partial foremen, both knuckleheads. They ain't really had a skill to be a foreman. They didn't really had a skill to be on the wall and be a journeyman. They was like tweeners, but for some reason, Justin was shown favor, and the other guy, Philip, he was the vice president's son. Looked just like him. So it was like, I can't say they were bad guys, but they used to be giving me a hard way to go. And the other guy, Justin, I was cool with him. And he was a pretty good bricklayer. Since then, I think he's got out of the trade. I've got a lot of people I've known have got out of the trade. But irrespective to that, I finished my apprenticeship as far as the schooling go, and I just needed that 1 year, and they complete you and give you your journeyman's card. So the company was experiencing some technical the technical difficulties, so to speak, and it was going out of business. I thought, and a lot of people was quitting. Then you had the owner of the company was married, and Alice Thayer, she was the owner. Billy Thayer, he was the owner, but I think the company was in her name. I don't know if she had funded it or not, but she was the owner of the company. Her and Billy was part owner, but I think she was the majority stakeholder in it. And they part ways. Billy had Thayer Masonry. She still had Straight Line Masonry. And I think Philip, the guy that was in the apprenticeship with me, he left. Justin left. The other Justin. So I'm like the only, apprentice that's still there, working hard. Checks starting to get thin, jobs drying up. And, you know, I came in the office one day and was just talking like, what's going on? And he was like, it's not looking good. This was Big Philip. It's not looking good. The vice president of the company is not looking good. So I said, really, I don't, man. Like, what do you, like, you the vice president, what do you think? If I was you, I'd leave, Sam. And I was like, ooh, woo. Like, woo. I ain't know I'm like, if the vice president feel like that. So I was like, man, what about my apprenticeship? So I said, what about, oh, don't worry about your apprenticeship, Sam. Uh, I'm going to make sure Alice completes your apprenticeship. I put my word on that. So I'm thinking, all right, well, since he said it, he the vice president of the company, I could take his word for it. So, I called up Billy Thayer and was like, you got a spot for me? Of course I got a spot for you, Sam. Of course, I like the way you work. So I left. I think I'm there for about 6 months, and I reached back out to Philip. I'm like, that journeyman question that I asked as far as the completion of my apprenticeship, what's the situation with that? Well, Sam, you quit, so there is no that. And I'm like, hold on, hold on. Why would you say that to me? You the one who told me you would make sure that Alice would put me through over the hump. Why would you sit there and say that? say it, act as if you don't got no idea what I'm talking about. He was like, Sam, I've never told you. We didn't have any conversation like that. So I said, you just talked to Alice then. I spoke to Alice, and I hadn't spoken to her really since I left. I think she is, when I parted ways with the company, we had a few words. It was no ill feelings or that I sensed. But now I'm sitting here like, man, I really did. Because it didn't really mean anything. If you out there laying brick, they gonna pay you like a bricklayer. But it was something to me, an accomplishment that I wanted. That like to me, it really meant a lot. And when he pulled that switcheroo trick on me, I was like, man, I was taken back. And it was no recourse because when I spoke to her, she was like, "There's no way you quit. Why would I finish out your your journeyman license? Why would I complete you when you quit?" And I was like, Philip said, don't worry about it. That he would put me through and talk to you and stuff. He ain't say nothing to me, and I'm talking Philip. He looking like I ain't say that to you, and I was shocked, and I think that was the one of the first experiences that I had in the workforce where I didn't know how to respond to it. It was no, appeal process to that. I felt duped and tricked, and I was like sitting there thinking like, man, what do I do? Like, and I just had to let it go. And that was an instance. And I don't like if y'all listening, like, what would y'all have done in that situation? Would you have quit or would you stayed on? Or I don't know. I should have stayed on. I should have stayed on. I should have stayed on. Even though I did need consistent money because, at the time I was the earn. I think I may have been the earner in the house, paying the majority of the bills and so forth. So at that time, you know, it wasn't super pressing. Oh, and I think we had moved into a house, and our bills got bigger. Our bills got bigger, and I'm sitting there trying to figure out, how to make it work. So if y'all listening, like, what would y'all have done? Like, I was mad. I was super mad. I was upset, and it affected how I thought about, bricklaying and stuff of that nature. It affected me, and it was a heartbreak. It was a heartbreak. But if I could have done it over again, if I had foresight, I should have just stayed, stuck it out, went through the hardships, even though it might. But then I was on the fence because I had that new mortgage coming in. We just got into a house. It was a new construction, and bills was way higher than an apartment bill, and I needed stable income, so that was one of the factors in it. And I just wanted to share that because I wish I would have had some sort of recourse. I wish I could have recorded that man saying that and could have took it to a different level. But here in Virginia is a right to work state, so I don't know for sure if you got no real measures that you can exhaust. I think they got something like I forget what they call it, but it's like when you sit down in a room and like it's somebody there kind of mediating. I think it's a mediation process that's involved in Virginia. You don't really get to go to court or nothing like that. But I'm about to wrap it up. I just wanted to share that story because a lot of times it's nobody sharing these stories and we just going through it. We out here going through it in the service industry, in the workforce as a blue collar. So, I'm about to wrap it up, but y'all know what it is. It was Let's Get To It. And that's a tour with you because I always got you in mind. So keep that in mind. And I'm the blue collar advocate. I'm out of here.